So I'm Ingrid Dell. I'm a tutor in the Writing Center here at the university. I'm also an English student, and I'm going to be giving a presentation today on academic posters. So many of you are probably wondering what are academic posters. Hopefully you are somewhat interested in them if you showed up to the workshop. So academic posters graphically present your research, and they're usually used in a conference setting. At a conference, you will have basically rows of posters, and you will give presentations to people walking by. So when you're giving those presentations, you aren't just reading out your poster to the people walking by, but you are also explaining them, answering questions, and giving more context. So this picture here shows you kind of what it would look like. You have some people walking through. All the posters are on big boards so that you can see them. Then a significant aspect of this is your oral presentation. So you'll be using your poster to develop a short presentation of your research. You will give a brief description of your research question, your thesis and findings, and why your research is important. And when you're doing this, you want to make sure you engage your audience and make things interesting. You should make sure they know why your research is important. And again, don't just read your poster, but expand, fill in the gaps that your poster has. So why make an academic poster? We know what they are, but here are some reasons why you can make them. For one thing, you can share your research with other people. You can use it as an opportunity to build visual representation of your research work. The oral presentation experience that you get from presenting at a conference or a poster competition will help give you important skills to list on your resume. And also you can get cash awards and certificates if you win the poster competition. So science students have been using academic posters as a way of displaying their research for years. While science research with its charts and graphs may seem ideal for the posters, the research conducted by art students can be just as effective at being communicated through posters. Generally, when you're writing an essay, your academic research becomes a conversation between you and your professor and possibly the other articles that you're citing in your essay. So that makes a really closed conversation. Academic poster opens that conversation up to the public and anyone who walks by and reads your poster. And it also, the visual aspects of them make them far more inviting for a lot of people than just looking at a sheet of writing. So you have illustrations and color and fun fonts and that kind of thing. For immediate use, the university is holding an arts fair that has a poster competition as part of it. So the poster competition, the submissions will be due at the end of April. So this contest is actually ideal for adapting your final papers for your classes into posters. Alternatively, you could propose to your professor that you submit a poster and give them a talk instead of a paper for your final project, though you'd have to make sure the prof was okay with that before you did that. So here's just some information on the poster contest. So the Faculty of Arts encompasses a large variety of subjects, and basically anyone within the Faculty of Arts can submit posters to this competition. So that includes classics, criminal justice, English, history, Indigenous studies, philosophy, religion, etc. So the posters will be judged by a panel of judges, and these judges won't just be looking at their posters, they'll also be listening to your talk. So that's a very important part of the competition. And you can include whatever images you think are applicable to for your poster there. And just a reminder that there are specific formatting guidelines. How do you make a poster? So there are lots of different applications out there that you can use. There's Illustrator, there's Photoshop, there's Word, there's PowerPoint. Basically anything where you can manipulate images and text will work for this. A lot of people prefer PowerPoint. It's on all the university computers, so if you go to university here, you can make a poster using PowerPoint. And it's actually, I was surprised at how simple it was to adapt into using that, so I would recommend that. Some basic formatting. Just for the for our personal use for the competition, the posters are 36 by 48, so that is a landscape rather than a portrait-style poster, and they are actually fairly large. I wasn't able to bring an example with me today, but if you look around the university, you'll see examples of science ones, and they are very large size, so just keep that in mind as you're designing yours. So I have created a small video on how to start out with a poster in PowerPoint. So on the left of the screen there, you can see that I have an essay that I've highlighted some of the important bits in. I didn't end up using all the stuff I highlighted, but you can see there that it's about 10 pages or so. And this is my document for PowerPoint. And the first thing I'm going to do after I move the title up to the top is I'm going to change the size of the document to fit the specifications for the poster competition. So if you go into page setup and then slide size, I'm doing this on a Mac. You can see that you can change it to 48 by 36 there. And then I've gone in and formatted and changed the background. So I chose my photo. And so now I have a background in my poster, and then I copied my title out of the Word document, and I put it into the poster there. So this is just the beginning of my poster, but it gives you some of the basic steps that you're going to go through just to start off, and once you get comfortable with that, you'll be able to do a lot more with your poster. Now that you've got your poster set up, you're probably wondering, what should I put on it? A lot of you will probably be starting with an essay, and therefore you can go off of your essay to get some of your content. However, you do not want to just simply copy and paste your essay onto the poster. That will be far too much text for people to read and be kind of intimidating for them. Less is more basically when it comes to text. Think of the example of a comic strip. So posters, like comics, rely on a combination of images and text to communicate their information. And like a comic, if there's too much text, the reader is likely to not read it closely or to skim or skip passages. You should keep in mind that a viewer won't want to stand there for an hour on end. You should be able to read the entire poster in 5 minutes. Try and break your text into smaller, more manageable sections. These you can model kind of after your essay. So if you have one paragraph in your essay, maybe think of having one text box. Not that you should simply copy and paste that whole paragraph into the text box, but think of that as kind of a guideline. And these are some possible text sections to include. So obviously the title is very important. You can have a subtitle if you want to, you don't necessarily have to. Your thesis statement or argument is also very important. And then you've got topic sentences, which you can pull from your body paragraphs. Major examples, descriptions of illustrations, because you don't want to just put posters on there and have people wondering why is that picture on there. And then your works cited. So I'm going to move on to a little bit about composition. So this is a mock-up I made of a template for arts style academic poster. So you can see that on your page. It's modeled after kind of the classic 5-paragraph essay. So instead of an introduction, I have my thesis statement / argument. And then for each of the main body paragraphs, I have a topic, sentence, example, and illustration. So this is just a basic format. Feel free to play with it as much as you want, but it's just a reference so that you kind of have an idea of one possible way of formatting. And remember that most posters will be read left to right, top to bottom, because that's the way in what we usually read things. So the most important information, like your thesis, should go in the top left-hand corner. Your images can be varied. Research in the arts uses a ton of images, even though we deal with a lot of text. We can have images, screenshots from films, historical photographs, artwork, etc. One thing is, along with color, contrasting colors between background and text will make it a lot easier to read. But if you use super dark colors in your background, it might not print very well, and also what dark background with white text some people find difficult to read as well. And remember to keep your font size large. It will seem kind of excessive when you're making your poster that you're using like 100 and something as your title font, but when you actually get it printed out, it will make sense. So as far as images go, we need to remember that images are owned by people. So as art students, we're used to dealing with text being owned by people, or ideas being created by people, but we're not as used to images. So when you find an image, you want to ask who owns the image, can you use it, and can you change it? The last one is mostly only important if you're going to be doing manipulations with your images rather than simply copying them in. So academic posters are still academic work, so they must follow the university's guidelines on plagiarism, so you want to make sure that you're still using a citation style guide in order to give credit to the people that wrote the ideas that you're working with. So I've created a short video here. A lot of people probably don't know that on Google you can actually search for images that can be modified or reused. So in this video I'm basically going through a basic search for images that I can reuse and modify. So I am searching for a tree in this. And then if you go into search tools at the top there, and then click on usage rights, and you have a whole bunch of options here. So it ranges from, because these are academic posters, they would be non-commercial use, but you can also use basically any of these. If you are going to be altering your images, select the ones reuse with modification rather than simply reuse. So as you can see, this narrows down the number of images I can use, but it also means that I'm not infringing any copyright laws when I use them. The other thing that I just want to bring up is because the posters are so large, make sure you're getting high quality images, because otherwise they're gonna look bad when you print them. So,
what's a high quality image?
So if you can see at the bottom here, there are numbers. You're looking for things probably with dimensions of about 1,000 by 1,000 and greater. You can try, like, depending on how big you want the image on your poster. So that's just kind of my general rule as far as that, but you can see what works. If you insert an image into your PowerPoint, you won't want to drag it to make it any larger, because that will cause it to become pixelated, but you can always drag it to make it smaller, and that will work fine. I'm just going to show you a couple of examples of posters that people have made. So this is one example, and I'd like to open it up for discussion of what you like and don't like about this poster. So if anyone has any ideas? Tyler?
Yeah, well, it's difficult to read the smaller font, just immediately, like it's a little bit, like you know what I mean, necessarily.
Yeah.
I don't know what you need, like magnifying glass or something.
Yeah, we do also have that it's going through the projector and stuff that makes it more difficult to read. But yes, the font size is pretty small, and it is white font on a black background, which isn't providing a really great.
I don't think it's like terribly eye-catching, just because there's a big pot of something in the middle and it's
yeah.
wet.
Yeah.
There's no like continuity, it seems like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was my reaction as well. I got distracted by the splatter on the stove and stuff, and it's just like, it's kind of gross. Yeah, which might play into their argument in their text if we could see the text.
Too, I think if the text was set off even by borders, our eye might be as drawn to the text as we are to some of the images.
Yeah. The other thing I'm not sure about not being able to read the text on here is whether or not they explain what the images are. So you want to remember that just looking at this, we don't know what the images are. So it's always good to have descriptions or related content to your images, or referencing your images in your text. Yeah, this is an example of, like, there are some good aspects to it. They use lots of photos, but it could use a lot of help with the design and also making it a bit more eye-catching and being able to read it, because if we can't communicate the information on it, what use is the poster? Just move on. So these are some other examples of what you can do with a poster. These are a lot more eye-catching. They're still a little bit on the text-heavy side, but when you go in to make your poster, you'll probably discover how hard it is to pare down your essay to meet the kind of requirements of posters. So speaking,
made in PowerPoint?
I'm not actually sure. I think these may have been made in Illustrator, or at least the one on the right may have. I think it would be possible to make them in PowerPoint, but you'd have to be a lot better with PowerPoint than I am. So, and this one is one that I made for this. So I worked probably about 5 hours on here. So I'll give you a brief explanation of the poster first, and then you can maybe give some comments on what you think. So the title of my poster is The Skin of the Land and the Land Through Skin. I was writing about, my paper is on human-environment relationships in a fantasy novel called Lord Foul's Bane. And in the novel, the fantasy land is actually called The Land, which I thought was unimaginative, but it also adds to my title. So the novel basic premise, which I omitted from the poster, but probably should put more information about who the characters are and stuff. There's a leper named Thomas Covenant who gets hit by a car, ends up in a fantasy land, discovers that he is extra powerful there and suddenly doesn't have leprosy. He goes on a bunch of adventures, and then he returns to Earth. And the aspect of the book that I was concentrating on was the ways that people communicate through touch and through the gaze and through verbal or oral communication. So I picked a couple of symbols here for different parts of my essays. The hands here are meant to represent the main character's hands. He's missing 2 of his fingers, hence why I did that on there. So that's also communication through touch. The dagger is an important part of the novel where the land acts as a scapegoat, so the land gets punished instead of Covenant for a crime he committed. And then the horses are a symbolic creature of the land, and they communicate primarily through touch as well. So that's my explanation of the poster.
I like how the text box has some of them, for text boxes, some of them are different.
Mm-hmm.
But is there a reason behind that?
Yes, there actually is. So the text boxes with the white background are main points from my essay. The ones without the background are supporting examples from the text. So this one relates to this one to this one, and to that one. And this is a main quote that I used in my introduction of the paper that I thought would help contextualize the poster. So, Stephanie?
How did you get the pictures like that?
The background images, you could actually do this in PowerPoint. Basically, you reduce the opacity of them. I think it's called transparency on PowerPoint. So basically, you have more than one image layered on top of each other. So I did basically the same thing with these ones. However, I did actually use Photoshop for making these images white and also removing the fingers on this one. As I said to some of you, I will be posting the materials from this workshop as well as other sources that I found helpful on the University of Winnipeg Tutoring Center's Facebook page, which is listed right here. Basically, it's facebook.com/U of W Tutoring Center. And I found a couple of talks about how to create the oral presentations and stuff that are YouTube videos that I will also be posting on there. You can also feel free to contact Chris Campbell about for more information on the poster competition. And if you post anything to the Facebook page, I will get it and be able to answer questions there as well. So, thank you very much for coming out. And
Thank you.